Now going to hand the floor over to Timothy Helniak from Nord Radio. Is infrastructure enough? The case of decline in the Faroe Islands, one of the most sparsely populated regions of Europe. Tell us a bit more, please.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I've been asked to talk a little bit about a case study, hopefully a fun, interesting case study that's actually not part of the premium projects. It's part of another project that I was involved in, a European Research Council project called InfraNorth, in looking at infrastructure in the Arctic. And the Faroes is, for some purposes, considered part of the Arctic, even though it's essentially subarctic. So what we were looking at, the question we were looking at in that project was, what is the role of transport infrastructure in sustaining Arctic communities? So we were looking at roads, airports, ports, and other things. So in this particular project, I had a case study of the Faroe Islands, and looking at the development of infrastructure in the Faroe Islands, and hopefully there's some application to other remote and rural areas elsewhere. The one picture shows the world's first undersea roundabout between two islands, Streymoy and Eysturoy in the Faroe Islands, and I'll show some pictures of where this, or maps of where this is located. And you can see it's very nice in the middle of this roundabout. There's some nice, this is pictures of Faroese dancers in the middle of this roundabout. The small inset picture is, of course, me, and this isn't my vanity shot. I want you to look beyond me and look at the topography of the Faroe Islands. For those of you who have not been to the Faroe Islands, it's a very mountainous country formed by volcanoes and sculpted by glaciers and weather over time. Of the geological Faroe Islands, only about 5% is above the water. So think of the Faroe Islands as the mountaintops. And that's the challenge the Faroe Islands has in terms of building roads and other infrastructure in the country. So why the Faroe Islands? Like I said, in this larger project, the question was, what is the role of transport infrastructure in sustaining Arctic communities? And we zoom in on the communities in the Faroe Islands. Like I said, this is a rather unique case study. Some 60 years ago, the Faroese government said, okay, we had this dilemma. What do we do with this is a remote country, and we're talking about remote communities within a remote country. So, and I show this one picture of Sumba and Suðuroy. This is the southernmost village in the Faroe Islands, population of 255 people, so quite remote. So the Faroes came up, and it's a 60-year-long construction or transport infrastructure development project that they've embarked on to retain people both within the Faroe Islands, but also within some of these remote places. The Faroe Islands is an autonomous region within the Kingdom of Denmark. It has a similar status to Greenland. All people in the Faroe Islands are Danish citizens, and a lot of them speak Danish, and Denmark is a place they oftentimes go. There's 56,000 people in the Faroes and a diaspora of some 15,000 in Denmark. There's 18 main islands, 16 of which are populated. And like the small inset map shows where the Faroes is located, roughly equidistant between Iceland, Norway, and the United Kingdom. So it is quite remote. And like I said, this issue of the fact that the islands are quite mountainous makes transport infrastructure is rather challenging. Most of the settlement, I don't think there's any inland settlements, all of them along the coast or different fjords. A little bit about the administrative geography of the Faroes. I won't go into this too much. So that you can see the different colors. So there's 6 different districts. Vagar is where the main airport, and only airport in the Faroes, is located. This was built by the Brits during World War II, closed down, and reopened as a commercial airport in 1963. The green region is Streymoy, and this is where Tórshavn, the capital and largest city, is located. And you can see in yellow are what are called the northern islands. There's one called Foglear, which means bird island. There's 43 people living in this island. But the two in the south, Sandoy means sand island. That's the orange one. And I'll talk about this in a second, but this is where the most recent subsea tunnel was opened to. And then Suðuroy, the island in blue in the south, is where, which is still not connected to the national road system. And at the lowest level are 120 villages, and that's what the Faroese were trying to maintain. So there, like I said, there was this debate about do we continue to support these periphery communities or just kind of let them die and become depopulated. Commensurate with that, in the Nordic countries, there's a policy of trying to maintain equal living standards among all regions within a country, and so it was a challenge for them to how to do this. And so they settled on using transport infrastructure as a tool for regional development, and this is what I'm explaining. And like I said, this may have some application to other places. I guess Becky will talk about this next. So there were structural changes in the economy over time. They went from sheep farming, Faroes means sheep islands, to fishing. Places with deep harbors became more populated because of that's what they needed. And then the economy is transitioning to services. And so they want people to be kind of connected to each other, and especially to Tórshavn, the capital, where a lot of the education, healthcare, etc., the elements of the service economy are located. So with these advances in transport, it's become much easier to move between the islands and the different settlements. And these few pictures on this slide show some of the elements of transport infrastructure. There are some heliports, which are used for emergency medical services or increasingly for tourism. The one picture on the far right shows one element of these tunnels that they build, and also shows the extreme topography that makes it a bit of a challenge. So this is a single-lane tunnel. The one picture in the middle shows, actually, I took this picture, but I was not driving at the time, so it's safe. Basically, what you do in these single-lane tunnels is you wait for a green light. You're hoping the people at the other end of the tunnel see the red light and they stop. So it's a bit of a challenge. Most of the newer tunnels are these two-way tunnels, which make it a little bit easier. And what gets a lot of attention are the subsea tunnels. So there's some inset maps here of how these subsea tunnels look like. So it's been a bit of an engineering and also financial challenge to go under the sea, under the rock, and then back up again. Like I said, the main airport is located on the island of Vágar. And before the first subsea tunnel was built from Vágar to the next island so that people could drive. Before that, it was a three and a half hour drive from the airport into the capital city. So think of where you live and how long it takes you to get to the airport. But basically what you had to do was drive 40 minutes, load onto the ferry, take a ferry ride, unload, and then drive another hour. So you couldn't actually have flights leaving before 11 o'clock or so in the morning because people couldn't get to the airport in time. But with the opening of the subsea tunnel, it's now a quite predictable 40-minute drive from the airport into Tórshavn. And the most recent subsea tunnel opened about a year ago to the Sandoy, the island just to the south, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's only about 1,100 people living there, but does that become a suburb of Tórshavn? You can see up at the top of the map to the next island, and this is where it branches off, and this is where the subsea roundabout is located. So what previously had been a day's journey or more has become just a few hours. So they call it the Faroe Islands in an hour. So you can basically drive everywhere in the country in an hour. And this map shows 1950, so before this infrastructure project got started, and then more recently, it shows the transport and also the population. So there has been growth in the country and growth in Tórshavn itself. And you can see the dashed lines show the ferry system. So before all this tunnel building, the road building, people between islands via ferry. And what happens now is once a bridge is built or one of these subsea tunnel opens up, the day it opens up, the ferry line to that place is closed down. So there's only a few places you can get to. I mean, now you can get to the southernmost island via ferry and some of the smaller ones, but basically you increasingly drive between islands or among the islands. So this shows the effects of some of these infrastructure projects over time. So the gray bars show the length of the road system over time. The symbols show, like I said, the opening at the airport. There's a few places in the Faroes where you can build a bridge or a causeway between islands, but it was after 2000 that they started embarking on these subsea tunnels where it was too far to build a bridge. I mean, like I said, the first one was from the airport, from Bagar into, and then the most recent one, number 4, was the one to Sandoy, and apparently it's been approved to build an even longer one to the southernmost island. But if you look at the green bar shows Tórshavn, where the capital is located, and the population there has grown, but the bottom two are these southern 2 islands where have been disconnected from the road system and where it's not been possible, where the population has been declining over time. So to conclude, I mean, transport infrastructure has certainly played a significant role in sustaining the Faroese communities, including tourism. Tourism has become common, and people go hiking, bird watching, etc. But the population has become quite car dependent. Our office was fortunate enough to take a trip to the Faroe Islands last September, and we heard from somebody who was involved in this transport development said there's 56,000 people and 44,000 cars. So it's and this could happen in other rural areas elsewhere. I mean, there is a good bus system within Tórshavn and within the islands, but still it's become quite car dependent. But on the positive side, the building of these bridges and tunnels has linked almost the entire population to the capital, making access much easier. So, like I said, I was asked to talk about just one particular policy, the development of transport infrastructure in one place to promote rural development, and so it seems to have worked in this case with perhaps a few downsides. So I do have a longer article if any of you are interested, so I'll finish there, turn it over.